One minute, Kelly Tinyas was sitting at home watching TV with her little brother. The next, she was walking out the door because some guy named John called and asked for her. Normal stuff, maybe, for 1989. Except this time, Kelly didn't come back. What happened inside that house wasn't just a tragedy. It exposed how bad people can hide in plain sight, how DNA was still trying to prove itself in courtrooms, and how sometimes the official story leaves way too much out. But before we dive in, if you like your true crime brief and bingeable, you're in the right place. Hit follow now for at least 2 new episodes every week. This is 10 Minute Murder. Let's get into it. On the night of March 3rd, 1989, just one day before her 14th birthday, Kelly Tinyas was holding down the fort at her family's home in Long Island, New York. She was the responsible one home that evening. Her parents were out, and it was up to her to keep an eye on her 8-year-old brother, Richard. It had been a regular night. They ate dinner, the TV was on, and Richard was happily zoning out, plopped down in front of that TV. Nothing weird, nothing dramatic. Then the phone rang. Richard beat Kelly to the phone and picked it up. A man's voice came through, short and to the point. "It's John. Get Kelly." This was the late 80s. If you wanted to reach someone, you called the house phone and rolled the dice on who might pick up. You never knew. Richard didn't overthink it. He didn't know who John was, and honestly, he didn't care. Somebody wanted to talk to Kelly. That's all he needed to know. He handed the phone over and went right back to his show. Kelly's call didn't last very long. When she hung up, she told Richard she was heading over to a friend Nicole's house for a bit. Totally normal. Kids in the neighborhood wandered around back then like unpaid interns on their own free time, with the unspoken rule to be home by the time the streetlights buzzed back on. But Kelly wasn't just any kid that night. She was supposed to be babysitting. While it didn't seem like a big deal in the moment, it was the kind of decision that, looking back, feels a lot heavier. Kelly hadn't forgotten her responsibility. That's why she made sure to tell Richard where she was going and that she'd only be gone for a little while. But a little while stretched longer and longer. And when Kelly still wasn't back, Richard started feeling uneasy. He knew Nicole's house. He knew the way, so he did what any worried little brother would do. He walked over to go get her. Only when Nicole opened the door, she looked confused. Kelly had not been there. Not all night. Richard was just 8 years old enough to understand that something wasn't right, but still young enough that panic hadn't fully set in. Not yet. Because almost immediately, a neighborhood friend pointed him in a new direction, toward a different house. They said they'd seen Kelly go inside not long ago. This time, Richard's stomach dropped. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that house. It belonged to the Golubs. And the Golubs had a reputation. Not a good one. Technically, they had money. John Golub Sr. owned a gas station, but you wouldn't know it by looking at their place. Their house was a wreck. Trash piled up outside, a smell that seemed to hang in the air, and the whole family cycling through the same dirty clothes like they were in some kind of laundry boycott. And unfortunately, the garbage wasn't even the worst part. John J. Golub, the Golub's second son, was already infamous in the neighborhood, the kind of teenager you crossed the street to avoid. He was older, meaner, and had made a full-time hobby out of tormenting younger kids like Richard. Normally, Richard would have bolted if he saw John coming, but that night was different. He was alone, and his sister was missing. So he did what probably felt like the bravest thing an 8-year-old boy could do. He walked up to the Golub's front door and knocked. No answer. He knocked again and again. Still nothing. It was like the whole house had swallowed itself whole. Running out of options, Richard went back home and waited for his parents. When they finally got back, he told them everything, that Kelly had gone to the Golub's place and that no one had seen her since. They tried knocking too. Still no answer. At that point, they called the police. The first time officers showed up, they asked the Golub family, John Sr., his wife Elizabeth, and their 2 sons, Robert and John, whether they'd seen Kelly. Every single one of them said no. But the neighbors had seen Kelly walk into that house. No one had seen her come back out. When the police returned for a second visit and asked to search the home, they found what they were dreading. In the basement, tucked among the piles of trash, inside a sleeping bag hidden in a small storage space, they found Kelly. She had been brutalized. Her throat was slit. Her torso was slashed. A knife had been used to mutilate her body in ways that don't make sense to anyone who still has a soul. There was no question Kelly had been murdered, and there was no doubt it had happened inside the Golub home. The only real question was, who did it? At first, suspicion leaned hard toward John. After all, someone named John had called asking for Kelly. And even though John terrorized the other neighborhood kids, some people said he had a soft spot for Kelly. She might have been the one person he didn't treat like a target. John was the link between Kelly and that house. But then investigators found something they couldn't ignore, a bloody handprint next to Kelly's body, and it wasn't John's. The DNA came back a full match for Robert Golub, John's 21-year-old brother. The bloody handprint sealed it. It wasn't John who had left it. It was his older brother, Robert. Robert was arrested and charged with Kelly's murder. At trial, his defense team tried a few different moves. First, they argued that the police search of the Golub house had been illegal. When that didn't fly, they switched gears and went after the evidence itself. DNA science was still the new kid on the block back then. If Robert got convicted, it would be the first time DNA evidence had ever secured a murder conviction in New York State. An expert explained to the court that there was a 1 in 707 million chance that someone other than Robert had left the bloody handprint. The jury didn't need much convincing after that. DNA won its first big case. Robert Golub was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years to life. He tried to appeal, but he was shot down. After serving his minimum, he applied for parole in 2013, 2015, 2017, 2019, and 2021. Each time, he was denied. During his trial, and for the first 25 years behind bars, Robert denied killing Kelly. But at his 2013 parole hearing, he finally changed his story, or at least part of it. He told the board that Kelly's death had been an accident. According to him, they were standing at the top of the basement stairs when he accidentally knocked her down. What followed, beating her, stabbing her, he really couldn't explain, which honestly doesn't scream accident. Even with Robert convicted, some things about Kelly's death still didn't add up, starting with why she went to the Golub's house in the first place. John, the one who called their house, claimed he hadn't seen Kelly that day. Robert said the same. According to John, he'd spent the evening in his room with two friends, getting high and doing a whole lot of nothing. To this day, Kelly's family has never been sure if that's the truth or if John had called Kelly over for something else entirely. Quote, "We won't stop until we get answers," Kelly's father told reporters at the time. And John's two friends backed up his story. They said that they were with him, hanging out on the grimy mattress in his bedroom, passing around a joint. But even they admitted John left the room at least 3 times that night. To make a phone call, to lure Kelly over, or to do something much worse. No one could say for sure. What we do know is that DNA only connected Robert to Kelly's body. And within 2 days of Kelly's murder, John packed up and left town. While his parents stayed in that same wreck of a house, John disappeared. Over the years, he picked up a handful of minor charges, things like harassment and accusations of sexual misconduct, but nothing tied him back to Kelly. Kelly's family still believes John had a hand in what happened. They've spent over 30 years pushing for the investigation into him to be reopened, but the law is slow to move when it thinks they already have its guy. Robert is still behind bars. As far as the state is concerned, case closed. Unless a new witness steps forward, some hidden piece of evidence surfaces, or John himself confesses, the full truth about what happened to Kelly Teniez may never come out. And unfortunately, none of those things have been easy to come by. Thanks for listening to 10-Minute Murder, brief and bingeable true crime. My name is Joe, I'm the host, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you're a brand new listener to the podcast, welcome and subscribe. Wherever you're listening right now, make sure you hit the subscribe button. You can follow 10-Minute Murder on social media, links are in the show notes, or you can head over to 10minutemurder.com and catch up on past episodes, grab some merch, or just poke around. And I do have to say, there's been a slight uptick in people that are displeased, I'll say, with certain elements of the show. And thank God it's not me, personally. I don't know what I would do if people say, the show's great, you suck, but the show's great. I don't know what I would do if that happened. Probably just ignore you. But there are people that say, you used to play a lot more music in the show. Can you bring that back? Play more music. And then there are people that say, don't play any music whatsoever. I hate the music that you play. Why are you playing music? And I'm saying this now to you because everyone's tastes are different. No matter what I do with the podcast and the production of it, someone is not going to be happy about it. So, and I know that. So what I do instead is I do what I want to do. And that makes me happy. So I do, let me be clear, I do what I think the majority of you would want to hear. And that's what I try to do. Now, I understand there are going to be some back and forth. People with the extremes, no music, all the music. And I get that. I'm not going to make everyone happy. I'm just trying to make the most of the people happy. So if you're one of those, find yourself in the category where you're kind of pissed off that I don't play the music the way you want it to. I'm sorry, but I can't change it. I can, but I'm not. Hope that helps. All right, end of my rambling. Hope you have a great day, a great night, awesome morning or afternoon, whatever it is that you're doing. Hope it's great for you. Thank you again for listening. See you next time.